In the summer of 2024, Michael Johnson stood in a downtown Los Angeles restaurant that had been rented out for a major announcement. Around him were cameras, reporters, and the kind of electricity that comes when someone genuinely believes they are about to change a sport forever. Johnson said he had secured $30 million in funding for a new track and field league. He promised payments never before seen in the sport. The biggest winners at each of his 4 annual events would pocket $100,000 per meet. That was 5 times more than first place earned on track's biggest existing circuit, for a sport where even global champions earn modest livings by professional athlete standards. This was not just a league. This was a lifeline. 18 months later, Grand Slam Track filed for bankruptcy. The league had generated less than $2 million in revenue. Its total debt sat at over $40 million. Athletes were chasing millions they were owed. Vendors were facing the prospect of recovering pennies on the dollar. And in the middle of all of it, a court filing revealed that Michael Johnson had paid himself $500,000 in the final weeks before the whole thing collapsed. This is the story of how one of track and field's greatest champions built the sport's most ambitious project, and then watched it burn in a single season. To understand what went wrong, you need to understand what Johnson was actually trying to build. Because the vision was not small. Johnson had carried the idea for Grand Slam Track since the 1990s. He formally announced it in February 2024, describing a league that would run 4 events per year, each one called a slam, across cities that had the market size to grow the sport's audience beyond its existing base of devoted fans. The 48 contracted athletes in the league each received an annual base salary for competing in the 4 meets over the course of the season, while $12.6 figures in prize money was also on offer. By contrast, in the Diamond League, the sport's established global circuit, athletes received $10,000 for winning an event. Grand Slam Track was offering $100,000 for the same result. Olympics, that gap is staggering. Johnson was not offering more money. He was offering a completely different financial reality for athletes who had spent entire careers competing at the highest level while earning a fraction of what athletes in other major sports considered reasonable. The roster reflected the ambition. Among the confirmed racers were American Olympic champions Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone, Gabby Thomas, Cole Hocker, and Quincy Hall. The league was structured around 6 event groups: short sprints, long sprints, short hurdles, long hurdles, short distance, and long distance, with each athlete assigned to a group and competing in 2 disciplines per meet. The 4 events were scheduled in Kingston, Miami, Philadelphia, and Los Angeles. And on paper, the whole thing looked exactly like what Johnson said it was. The most serious attempt in the sport's modern history to build a professional league that could compete with other sports for audience attention and athlete loyalty. Then the season actually began. Grand Slam Track completed 3 events during its 2025 season: Kingston in Jamaica, Miami in Florida, and Philadelphia. The Los Angeles event, the 4th and final slam of the year, was canceled. The Philadelphia event was cut from 3 days to 2. Attendance was poor at the opening leg in Kingston. The gaps between the promise and the reality were widening event by event. And behind the scenes, the financial situation was deteriorating at a pace that nobody watching the meets could have understood from the outside. A key investor had pulled out of an 8-figure commitment. Johnson later confirmed this to reporters, describing it as a massive blow that caused a serious cash flow crisis for the entire organization. A source familiar with the matter reported that the investor reneged on their commitment days after attending the Kingston debut, saying they planned to invest their money elsewhere after President Trump's tariff announcement. 8 figures gone in one moment. Because of a tariff announcement that had nothing to do with sprinting. That kind of external shock can sink a new league even in ideal conditions. But Grand Slam Track was not in ideal conditions. It had committed to prize pools, athlete salaries, venue contracts, television production, lighting companies, broadcast partners, and public relations firms, all of it funded on the assumption that the investor money was real and reliable. By July 2025, it was reported that the league had not paid athletes from the Kingston event their prize money despite having promised to do so by the end of that month. Athletes including Gabby Thomas, Emmanuel Wanyonyi, Alison Dos Santos, and Grant Fisher had publicly commented about not having received payment. Sebastian Coe, the president of World Athletic, confirmed that the governing body was monitoring the situation. Johnson acknowledged in August that the league was unable to meet promised payment timelines. He described it as one of the most difficult challenges he had ever experienced. Due to our strong desire to make this right as quickly as possible, we offered dated payment timelines and have been unable to meet them, he said. Understandably, this has led to frustration, disappointment, and inconvenience to our athletes, agents, and vendors. I know this damages trust. Once damaged in a league that depends entirely on athlete participation is an almost impossible thing to rebuild. In December 2025, Grand Slam Track filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in Delaware, seeking to stabilize its finances after what it described as a turbulent inaugural season. Court filings revealed the full scale of the financial disaster. The league had earned less than $2 million in revenue during 2025, while accumulating more than $40 million in total debt. $40 million in debt. Less than $2 million coming in. That is not a business that ran into trouble. That is a business that was structurally unable to survive from the beginning. And then came the detail that changed the entire story. Court filings revealed that Johnson had received a $500,000 payment from the league in June 2025. That was the same period during which Grand Slam had canceled the Los Angeles event because it had run out of money. The creditors committee alleged that Johnson sent himself this payment without proper board approval or justification, and that the payment was fraudulent. Athletics Weekly Johnson disputes that characterization. A spokesperson for Grand Slam Track issued a statement calling it a reimbursement rather than a payment, and framing the decision to return the money as a goodwill gesture aimed at helping the bankruptcy process move forward. The statement read, "While Mr. Johnson has been clear that the $500,000 was a reimbursement and not a payment, to avoid disruption and continue moving forward, he and Winners Alliance have agreed to fund the amount to the plan so that all creditors can benefit." Athletics Weekly, whether it was a payment or a reimbursement, the optics are brutal. The league was canceling events because it had no money. Athletes were going months without the prize money they had been promised and had competed for. And in the middle of all of that, $500,000 left the organization and went to its founder. The creditors were not quiet about their reaction.